This is another completely different portfolio from the previous one I've just shown. It's equally interesting, but shows a very different skill set to the one I've previously shown you. It's a great and unusual first page where she's dealing with it's great because it's printmaking, and printmaking is a really interesting process to take drawing through. There's something quite brave and quite unusual about the way she's made these images of this narrative character that obviously feeds through into the rest of her work, which I'll show you now. You can see from the etchings I've just shown you that obviously this character, who happens to be a well-known painter and author that was attached in some way to her previous school, she's used him as a character, almost turning him into a narrative character. She's obviously a natural printmaker, so she's used print to use typography, and she's used lino and woodcut to really explore the historic context of this character. And this flows naturally on to a final piece, which she also brought to the interview, which is a large-scale A0 painting, which combines both collage, painting, and mixed media. It's a really interesting piece. It's the sort of piece that you want to run your hands over because it's really texturally interesting, and you can't quite pin it down in terms of history or context of when it was produced. And then we move on to a potentially quite conventional drawing, or at first it appears conventional, but then it's really showing really beautiful observations, and you've got some really wonderful, quite eccentric observations of different objects within this environment. This is a really beautiful set of drawings. For those of you who do life drawing, it doesn't perhaps look like a conventional academic drawing, but there's such an amazing exploration of movement, of form. These are obviously quick drawings, but they really give you a sense of space, proportion, and that movement. It's also a really brave move to actually decide that for a final portfolio you're going to put a series of drawings that don't potentially feel finished, but actually they're really exciting. And again, she's showing that progression very naturally in the portfolio, where this is a really beautiful example of, again, fast 1-minute drawings that really give us a sense that she understands the anatomy of this form. And then she's slowed it down somewhat in these next two drawings, where we get a much more fundamental idea of the three-dimensionality of the body. Not everybody will have done this many life drawings. Obviously, this student really enjoys it and wants to actually show off that she's dealt with a variety of different techniques. But more than anything else, she's really shown that she's kind of prepared to give it a go and also deal with colour in the body, which can work really well. This is a really interesting first exploration. Where she uses colour even more successfully, in my opinion, is in this drawing. A really beautiful, exciting drawing of a typewriter. Almost going back to the original page where she was dealing with a historic figure as a character, this typewriter almost feels like a character itself. And then she's decided to photograph this amazing typewriter. Really beautiful art direction. She's really looking at the shadows and the way that the light reflects onto the page. She's really thought about where she puts the typewriter, and it gives us a real sense of the context of the environment. This slightly pains me, this page, as it's a terrible destruction of a beautiful object, but actually she's photographed it and documented it with probably the same commitment she put into actually dismantling it. What's very interesting about this portfolio is understanding whether she sees the photographs as final pieces or whether she actually sees these paintings as final pieces. In my opinion, the photographs are fantastic and actually could be seen as the last final resolution to the work. Potentially, I'm thinking that she's looking at these images as the final pieces. Great paintings, great use of materials again, but perhaps not quite as successful as the photographic pieces. And then she's actually put in a canvas that she's obviously taken off the frame. It may not have even been on a frame in the first place, but you really get a sense of the fact that she really is great with material. She's using typography on the background of this piece. She's using basic print techniques, and then obviously showing that she has great skills in terms of figuration. And this piece is really exciting. This is combining all of the things we've seen in the portfolio, which is a great piece to end on. She's made a really beautiful fabric piece which combines her photography, her making skills, her drawing skills, and her sense of narrative, which she's then art directed beautifully in these shots. As with the previous portfolio, I want to take you back and show you where this underpins her work. This is her research, and we can see that obviously with this she's looking at historic figures, which is where we started the portfolio. Looking at other artists, which is great because they're mixed and varied. This is where suddenly I get excited. We've already seen the final two pieces of these photographs, but what I can see here is she didn't just take one photograph to get the image and the art direction right of this photograph. She took loads and loads and loads of photographs, and she worked out exactly which one shot would best articulate what she wanted to say about this work. And there's a real sense of excitement in what she's producing. Again, she goes back to drawing. She's continuously using different processes to work out what she's actually trying to do with her work and what she's trying to explore throughout these materials. And again, a really lovely page. There's a really playful quality with how she's creating images of this work. And again, back comes her photography. She's not afraid to use photography as an art form, but also as a way of documenting her testing. And again, really great image making. She kind of uses scale in a brilliant way, and likewise where we saw with the previous project, she's using photography to work out compositionally how she makes something work. And to show one last sketchbook of a series of sketchbooks she showed us. Really beautiful sketchbook where again she's looking at really diverse artists and designers. She's obviously trying all of these things out herself, probably using her family as models for such things, but it's a really great way of testing out whether an idea can work in a photographic form. And again, a really lovely use of materials. You can see she obviously has a natural feel for paint and drawing, but then she takes it on. She's dealing with photocopies, which she's then colouring, testing, overlaying, and it really helps her understand why a piece might work and how she can push that piece further. Every possible perspective on this subject has been explored, whether it's the front of the card or the back of the card. And she's obviously evaluating right at the very end and working out how this becomes her final resolved piece.